The military method. Most sleeping pills take 30 minutes to work. The US Army figured out how to do it in 2 minutes without drugs. The protocol was built for combat pilots who needed to sleep under conditions that would keep most people wide awake. Noise, adrenaline, sleeping in a metal chair, or directly on the ground. None of it mattered once they had the sequence down. The method begins with relaxing your body. Start with your face. Release the tension in your jaw and let your cheeks fall. Let your tongue drop from the roof of your mouth. Close your eyes and feel the muscles around them soften. Next, relax your shoulders, feeling them drop from up next to your ears. Then let the relaxation travel down your arms and your hands all the way through your fingers. Slow your breathing and feel your chest gently rise and fall with each breath. Now let go of the tension in your legs, beginning with your thighs and moving down through your calves and feet, each muscle group getting a deliberate, conscious release before you move to the next one. Once your body is completely relaxed, focus your mind on a peaceful image. You might imagine lying in a canoe on a quiet lake, or resting in a hammock under trees. Keep that picture in your mind and notice what you hear, feel, and see in that scene. If your thoughts wander, repeat a simple phrase like, "Don't think." The reason this works has nothing to do with how tired your body is. Mental arousal is what keeps you awake. Your brain is always looking for something to process. This protocol shuts that down by giving it something to think about, so it stops generating its own noise. Within 6 weeks of practice, over 90% of soldiers could fall asleep in under 2 minutes, in a fighter jet. But just to be completely fair, they were probably a bit exhausted. Paradoxical Intention. The one thing that guarantees you'll stay awake is trying really hard to fall asleep. So what if you did the opposite? Paradoxical Intention is a technique from cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. The premise is counterintuitive. You lie in bed, forcing your eyes to stay open, staring at a point on the wall, and mentally repeating the phrase, "Don't fall asleep." It works because it treats sleep performance anxiety, the cortisol loop that kicks in the moment you start monitoring yourself. The instant you start thinking about whether you're asleep yet, your nervous system registers a task it needs to complete, and tasks require alertness. Trying to sleep becomes the very obstacle to it. Removing the goal removes the loop. When your only job is to stay awake, there's nothing to fail at. The brain stops treating sleep as a performance and stops generating the cortisol that was blocking it in the first place. Studies show it cuts sleep onset time by up to 50% in people with conditioned arousal, which is the clinical term for lying awake because lying awake has become a habit. You tell yourself to stay awake and fight to keep your eyes from closing. Your body does the opposite. The second you pick a fight with sleep, it shows up just to prove you wrong. Microdosing melatonin. You've probably taken melatonin before. You've also probably been taking 10 to 20 times the dose that actually works. The body naturally produces between 20 to 40 micrograms of melatonin across the entire night. That's it. That's all your brain needs to signal that it's time for sleep. Most melatonin supplements sold in stores come in 5 to 10 milligram doses, which is hundreds of times higher. Even after being metabolized by the liver, they still deliver quantities so far above your brain's natural output that they don't mimic the sleep signal, they overwhelm it. Supraphysiological doses flood your melatonin receptors and desensitize them. Instead of reinforcing your normal sleep signal, they throw off how that signal is timed and processed. Over time, your body becomes less responsive to the same dose, and instead of feeling sleepy, you feel groggy, a heavy, sluggish feeling that carries into the next day. Some research suggests a far more effective dose is 0.3 milligrams, taken 30 to 60 minutes before bed. At that level, you're matching the brain's natural onset signal instead of trying to override it. It mimics rather than drowns out. The reason you've never seen 0.3 milligrams on a shelf is that it seems way too small. Half a milligram sounds like it won't do anything. That perception is costing you sleep. Visual counting. Your brain has a default mode that loops anxious thoughts. Occupy it with math instead, and the loops stop. The technique combines two mechanisms. You count backwards from 300 by threes, 300, 297, 294, while simultaneously visualizing each number appearing in front of you and then physically fading out before the next one arrives. The arithmetic and the visualization work together. The part of your brain responsible for anxious looping, replaying conversations, and running tomorrow's to-do list is its default mode. It activates whenever your mind is unoccupied. Give it a task that requires just enough cognitive effort to stay engaged, specifically mental math with a visual component, and it has nowhere to go. The loop can't run because the bandwidth is already taken. The fading visual element is what makes this more effective than simple counting. It adds a second layer of cognitive load. You're not just tracking numbers, you're actively constructing and then dissolving them in your head. That extra demand is enough to keep the anxious narrative from finding a foothold. The goal is not to reach the number 0. The goal is not to finish counting. Most people hit somewhere around 240 before they're completely out. The eye roll. Your eyes naturally roll upward right before you fall asleep. You can always skip the waiting and just do it manually. Close your eyes, roll them upward to approximately 45 degrees, and hold them there. This upward roll mirrors Bell's phenomenon, a reflex where your eyes drift upward when you close them, especially as the brain disengages from being awake. That angle mimics where your eyes naturally shift during sleep onset, and holding it helps your brain move toward a relaxed state. You're basically using a physical position to mirror a signal your body naturally produces. The upward roll also naturally provokes a blink response even when your eyes are closed. That blink, and the muscle fatigue that follows from holding the position, tires out the orbicularis oculi, the muscle responsible for eyelid movement. The eyelids get heavy because the muscle controlling them is genuinely fatigued. Researchers note that you can achieve a similar effect through rapid blinking alone, which exhausts the same muscle through repetition rather than a sustained position. The eye roll is the more direct mechanism. The blink fatigue it produces is an added bonus. In practice, this means you roll your eyes upward, let the natural blink response happen, and wait for the lids to get heavy. It looks a little weird, but who's watching you anyway? Magnesium. You can take magnesium every night and still be magnesium deficient in the one place that matters. Generic magnesium, oxide, citrate, the kind sold in every pharmacy, doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier effectively. It reaches your gut, your muscles, your bloodstream. What it doesn't reach in meaningful amounts is your brain. For sleep, that's the only place it needs to go. Two forms do cross that barrier. Magnesium glycinate is believed to support GABA activity and reduce neuronal excitability. It physically quiets the nervous system rather than sedating it. Magnesium threonate is the other. It's the only form clinically shown to raise magnesium concentrations in cerebrospinal fluid, which is why it's studied specifically for cognitive and sleep applications. When brain magnesium levels rise, cortisol drops and sleep quality measurably improves. Dosing is typically 200 to 400 milligrams of glycinate, or 1.5 to 2 grams of threonate, taken about an hour before bed. Either form works. What doesn't work is the bottle you've had in your medicine cabinet for 3 years with a picture of a mountain on it. A significant portion of the population is magnesium deficient, and deficiency produces light, fragmented sleep, not to mention muscle cramps that get worse as you age. If you're low, it can actually help. If you're not, don't expect much. Word games. Your brain keeps you awake by telling itself stories. What if you forced it to think in complete randomness instead? Take a word like calm, relax, or rest, and for each letter, generate a list of unrelated words that start with it. For C, words like cloud, cabinet, cactus, corner. Keep going until you can't think of any more. Then go on to the next letter. A for anchor, apple, axis, antler, and so on. The words don't need to connect to each other. They rarely do. This is called cognitive shuffling, and the mechanism is the opposite of what most sleep techniques do. Instead of calming your thoughts or guiding them towards something peaceful, it breaks the brain's ability to construct a coherent narrative. Your mind defaults to storytelling during waking states, planning, worrying, replaying, because narrative is how it organizes experience. Feed it random, disconnected thoughts, and the storytelling function gets completely disrupted. The word you choose to start with doesn't matter. The words that follow don't either. What matters is that it keeps your brain occupied, and somewhere in that process, it runs out of the alertness required to stay awake. The word calm is just a convenient place to start. You could use sleep, pillow, or even your dog's name instead. The brain will diligently generate nonsense, whatever choice you make, and help you fall asleep. Breathing techniques. Slow breathing helps calm you down, but there's a precise pattern of doing so that's much more effective. The 4-7-8 method is designed specifically to induce relaxation. Simply inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, and exhale for 8. The extended exhale is what does most of the work. A long, controlled exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system via the vagus nerve. the branch of your nervous system responsible for rest and recovery. The hold creates a slight carbon dioxide buildup, and the extended exhale clears it. Excess carbon dioxide in the bloodstream is a primary driver of physiological anxiety. Clear it, and the anxious arousal that was keeping you awake clears with it. Box breathing follows a different rhythm. 4 seconds inhale, 4 hold, 4 exhale, 4 hold with your breath completely out. Where 4-7-8 is better for calming the racing thoughts and the sudden alertness at 2 a.m., box breathing is better for general nervous system regulation when you need something consistent and sustainable. Both require that you actually do the count, not just deep breathing while you're thinking about something else. The counting is part of what makes them work. You can't run an anxious thought loop while also tracking a 7-second breath hold. Pick one, do it for 4 or 5 cycles, and your heart rate should drop noticeably by the end of the 3rd round. Apigenin. Chamomile tea doesn't work because you're not drinking enough of it. The actual compound does work, and here's the dose that seems to help. The active compound in chamomile is apigenin, a flavonoid that binds directly to GABA-A receptors in the brain. Those are the same receptors targeted by benzodiazepines. The mechanism is essentially identical. GABA-A receptor activation reduces neuronal excitability, slows brain activity, and produces sedation. The difference is that apigenin does this without the dependency risk, the withdrawal effects, or the prescription required with anti-anxiety meds. A standard cup of chamomile tea contains somewhere between 0.5 and 3 milligrams of apigenin. The studied effective dose is 50 milligrams. You'd need between 15 and 100 cups to get there, which would require being awake long enough to drink them, which entirely defeats the purpose. Parsley, of all things, actually contains more apigenin than chamomile tea, but still not enough to matter. You'd need to eat an impractical amount, and that comes with its own set of problems. Supplementing 50 milligrams of apigenin 30 to 60 minutes before bed has been found to produce measurable reductions in sleep onset time and improvements in overall sleep quality. It's non-habit forming, well tolerated, and has a bonus effect on anxiety that's worth noting if that's also something you're dealing with. Chamomile tea isn't useless. It's just one of those things that got passed down through enough generations that nobody stopped to check if it actually works. Binaural Beats. Playing 2 different frequencies in each ear makes your brain create a 3rd frequency that doesn't actually exist. That's not a figure of speech. When your left ear receives a 100 Hz tone and your right ear receives 103 Hz simultaneously, your brain processes the difference and generates a 3 Hz beat internally, a frequency that isn't present in either audio signal. It exists only inside your head, synthesized by your brainstem as it tries to reconcile the 2 inputs. This is called the frequency following response. For sleep, the target is delta wave frequency, which is 0.5 to 4 Hz. A frequency so low your ears can't hear it directly. The only way to perceive it is when your brain generates it from a difference between the 2 tones. Delta waves are the dominant brainwave pattern during deep sleep. When you listen to binaural beats in that range, your brain's electrical activity gradually entrains to the beat frequency, meaning your brainwaves begin matching the phantom rhythm your brainstem created. You're essentially handing your brain a target state and letting the audio hold it there. The technical requirement is stereo headphones. Earbuds work, speakers do not. The frequencies need to arrive in separate ears for the effect to occur. Without that separation, the 2 tones just blend together and no 3rd beat is generated. It usually takes about 20 to 30 minutes for your brain to start syncing to the beat. Most people use it as they're falling asleep, which means they don't notice when it's working. By the time it does, you're already out. Acupressure Points. 3 specific pressure points lower your heart rate faster than any supplement can. The first is HT7, also called Heart 7. It sits directly below your pinky, in the small hollow right at the crease where your hand meets your wrist. Press directly into that point with firm pressure and hold it for 2 to 3 minutes, then switch and repeat on the other wrist. HT7 has the strongest clinical evidence of the 3. Controlled studies have shown it produces significant improvements in sleep latency and sleep quality, likely by activating the vagus nerve and increasing parasympathetic activity, which slows heart rate and helps your body calm down. The second is On Me On. It sits just behind your earlobe, in the soft dip between the back of your jaw and your skull. Apply gentle, steady pressure for 1 to 2 minutes. This area is packed with nerve endings that connect into the autonomic nervous system, and stimulating it can bring your heart rate down within just a short time. Make sure and stay just behind the earlobe. Don't move lower toward the front of the neck where the carotid artery sits. The third is yin tang, right between your eyebrows, in the spot where those 11 lines form. Apply light downward pressure for 1 to 2 minutes. This one has been shown in some clinical studies to reduce stress signals and help with sleep onset. The mechanism in all three cases is the same. Sustained pressure on nerve-dense tissue sends signals through the autonomic nervous system that reduce heart rate, lower cortisol, and increase parasympathetic tone. That last phrase means your body is told, through nerve tissue, to stop being on alert when it clearly can't figure out how to do that on its own. Progressive muscle relaxation. Telling yourself, just relax, doesn't work because sometimes your muscles are wound so tight they don't know what the word relax actually means. Progressive muscle relaxation fixes that by giving your body the opposite of relaxed to compare it to. Instead of trying to relax from neutral, you create tension on purpose so your body can feel the difference when you let go. Starting at your feet, tense each muscle group deliberately for 5 seconds. Squeeze as hard as you can, then release completely for 30 seconds before moving on. Work upward, calves, thighs, abdomen, hands, arms, shoulders, face. The order is intentional. You're moving systematically so nothing gets skipped, and your attention stays anchored to your body instead of drifting back to whatever your brain was running before you started. The mechanism is actually physiological. When a muscle has been actively contracted and then released, the rebound relaxation is deeper than what you get by trying to relax from a neutral state. Your nervous system uses that tension as a reference point. Without it, it doesn't really know what relaxed means. With it, the release produces a measurable drop in muscle activation that feeds back to your brain as a signal to down-regulate. It also works as a mental redirect. Moving through each muscle group gives your brain something structured and physical to track, which keeps it from spinning up anxious thoughts at the same time. By the time you reach your face, the combination of full-body muscle release and redirected attention has produced more physiological calming than you'll ever get from just trying to relax, and that's if you make it that far before drifting off. When you're wide awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, at least now you've got a plan. And if none of this works, well, be grateful there's always coffee. Now go get some sleep.